treating e-bikes as if they're just mini motocross bikes.
Does Mark kick that goose?
They love rubber, don't they?
Go on. Shoo.
Look her off. The break her arm.
Look her
That's
off.
a swan.
Go on. Shoo. Hi, welcome to Singletrack World. I'm Hannah. This is Benji.
Hello.
And his favourite thing in the world is tyres. And you've written in the upcoming magazine that tyres are the most important thing on your bike. Yeah?
It's not a controversial statement. I'm sure you've heard it all before, but it is true.
So we're going to talk about tyres. Not necessarily the best tyre, but tyre technology. So I can't remember the last time that I wore out a tyre or had cause to change a tyre, really. So I just kind of ride whatever is on the test bike I've got.
Okay.
Generally.
Yeah.
So, and I can notice the difference between them, but I don't make choices about tyres.
There are some durability questions, and there are some tyres that work acceptably a lot longer than others.
Right. Well, I'm going to pick some tyres off this rack of tyres that we've got here, and I'm going to let you fondle them because I know that makes you happy.
Yep.
So look, this is a Magic Mary. So what's notable about the Magic Mary?
Front tyre only.
Why is that?
It lacks a constant kind of paddle tread at the back, which is not so much for climbing, more to do with braking performance.
So would that one be better on the back? Is that more like a constant kind of paddle tread?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yep. It's hard to tell if a tyre is going to be any good or not.
Okay.
By looking at it. When you'd look at a Magic Mary and you'd think, the side knobs are going the wrong way. Like, what's that about? It's normally, you're kind of trying to overcome all kinds of 90s and noughties tyre theories where you had a shape of your tyre doing that, and it's not necessarily the case at all. Okay. The only thing that is actually warrant talking about on a tyre is whether they have a ramped front bit to the knobs, like on these ones there.
Okay.
So that helps reduce, shall we say it? Yes, let's say it. It helps reduce knob strike, which is just slightly calms down when the knobble hits the surface.
What does knob strike feel like?
Drag. It's really, really harsh.
Okay. Well, there's a Schwalbe. See, that hasn't got particularly ramped edges on there. You're going to get knob strike with that?
Yes, but this is a willfully rolling resistant, agnostic, irrelevant, whatever, e-bike specific tyre.
Because we don't really care, because we've got a battery to help us get over it.
Yeah, I mean, it does have an impact on the range of how much you're going to get out of your e-bike, actually, so I'm not sure they're a particularly great idea. Some people, because mountain bikers are all a bit fiddly, some people do like to use e-bike tyres on the back of normal bikes as well.
If they're like tyre destroyers, or wheel destroyers, maybe. If
they're really harsh on the tyres, or they just want a real, predictable, unsubtle kind of motocross tyre, that's a good one. Okay. Not much steering kind of on that one, but good as a rear.
Okay.
Very good, actually. I mean, if you're dragging like a massive boot downhill rear tyre around, you probably should look at e-bike tyres instead. You'll save a few grams.
Okay, so that one, we're talking about tread. So this one doesn't have rampy bits because rampy bits give you less knob strike. Yep. Stripes across the way is good. Yep. Honks, bad. Stripes across the way is good because that's good for a rear tyre. Yep. Okay, and then you said about tread having open tread like this one is mud sheddy. Yeah? Mud. Now this, as much as a tyre can be fascinating, this is a really interesting tyre because normally the geese are obviously well up for it. It's a mud spike, but normally you'd get a mud spike on a big 2.5 volume tyre with a massive stiff sidewall, and consequently it would be a real pain to pedal around. You might think it's the knob design that's going to be draggy, which it probably is a little bit, but when you get downhill tyres or chunky tyres and they're hard work, it's because the carcass is really stiff, like 2 and 3 ply, 4 ply carcasses. Right. Even if they were bald, if anyone's ever had a
God, what were they? Like
hookworm? Like
yeah,
a
Maxxis
downhill
hookworm.
hookworm
Like,
or
why isn't
something?
this rolling very well? So I'll tell you why, because it's made of cardboard. It's like, it's just, all the energy goes into deforming that carcass for every millimetre, and that's where all your efforts are going. So that, although it's May, we've got a long time to wait, this has a high hopes that we'll have a good trail mud tyre. Because I've had the beefy mud DH version of this, and it's amazing, except you do not want to pedal to the woods in the first place.
Right.
So that might help us get around a bit.
But
yeah,
then
it's quite not bad, is it? I'm not saying it's light. I don't really want to get too involved in weight.
Spacing, though, is that what sheds the mud? Is that it's all spaced out so the mud can fall off?
Yes,
and
Michelin's, they will say they're trimmable, but they don't really for that. It means there's more edges to bite in, and there's a fling factor, so it will fling the mud off a little bit more than if that was just one big midget gem. Okay.
Midget gems, eh? How many midget gems? Right. So, what have I got here?
It's a new one.
This has got very fancy sidewall on it. Is that
Continental have always been quite into putting patterns on their outside of their tyres. You remember the Vert Pro? It had like a spider and a spider web motif in between it. So this is almost like a callback to that kind of era. This is one of their new ones. They've had a total revamp, so they're going to kind of ditch a lot of the kings and queens and all the names like that, and they've gone to this.
Crypto.
Yeah, everything ends in tal, which is because they're called Continental, apparently.
Right.
Crypto, don't know. But all these symbols on the side will tell you what they mean. That denotes the carcass. I think that's the compound. I can't remember all these kind of things really, but there's lots of different. And that's a little bit. If you pick up the other Conti one that's around, is it here? Here it is. That's noticeably, as well as being heavier.
Ooh. Yeah.
You'll notice it's not quite as deformy around your finger.
It's not as bendy. Yeah. That might be quite hard to get off with your thumbs compared to this one.
I mean, the size of those knobs and the super soft compound and that mega ply sidewall, that's a very, very, depends how you want to spin it, really, literally. It's either a very over-the-top tyre or it's a very strong tyre. You'd have to be going some to really warrant that tyre, really.
So we did mention sidewalls briefly in as much as I was like, oh, look, they're pretty. But what other qualities might we want to be assessing in a sidewall here?
It's not too much of an issue on mountain bikes these days. I mean, there used to be all kinds of things where certain tyre brands were a bit porous, and it seemed to take ages to seal and things like that they hadn't properly coated the inside of the tyre. Beads, you get a little bit more debate on road cycling, don't you? Whether you should have a bead and whether you're getting hookless, tubeless or whatever. Yeah. But everyone works with hookless or hooked on mountain bikes these days.
So what's the trade-offs? Why wouldn't you just choose like the most puncture-proof thing you could?
It's the same thing as before. It's, what do you call it? It's hysteresis and all that kind of rubbery things. Okay. So the more you make a tyre stiffer, the more it will just drag. So that's why all the road and the track people and the velodromists are all glued on tyres with 100 and 200 TPI tyres, because they don't take any energy out of the rider. They will just deform to the ground and keep on going. Whereas if you get a real chunky downhill tyre, you might think it's the knobbles, you might think it's the compound, but the biggest energy suck is the stiff carcass.
Right. You just said TPI, which is
threads per inch. Yep.
Go on. Explain in more detail. What is threads per inch and why are they good or not?
Well, tyres are kind of different. They're like tablecloths. Like different layers of tablecloths on top of each other.
Who buys tablecloths? Duvet covers, surely, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you might think the higher the number.
What kind of posh world do you live in, Rees-Mogg?
The more threads per inch, you might think they're tougher. They're not. They're supple. So you want to be a bit canny with how you use them. I mean, on the back, I would never put like a 120 TPI tyre on the back because it would just be pinch flatting all the time.
Right.
So I'd probably put a little bit more of a stiffer tyre at the back to a degree.
Okay.
And then I'd go up a bit on TPI on the front. I don't think front tyres drag very much at all, unless it's a ridiculous tyre. You can put quite an aggro, particularly if you put a really soft tyre on the front. I'd be fine for that. And then put a firmer compound tyre on the back.
This one seems quite stiff. This is an e-bike specific one, isn't it? With
Graphene.
Graphene. That's the future, isn't it?
It's coming for us. They've heard graphene.
The geese want the future. So what's this for then?
This means it's battery powered. No, it doesn't. It means it's for an e-bike. But unlike this eddy current Schwalbe that's kind of like treating e-bikes as if they're just mini motocross bikes.
Does Mark kick that goose? Shall I herd them?
They love rubber, don't they?
Oh, go on. Shoo.
Take her off. Break her arm. That's a swan.
Go on. Shoo. Yeah, come on. Shoo.
They're not moving, are they? Oh, gosh. Drunkards.
Can't get the staff.
Drunk ducks.
It's for e-bikes. So this one's for e-bikes.
This one's for e-bikes.
The other one was for e-bikes.
Yes, that's e-bikes in a sense of I'll just have a mini motocross bike and smash my way around everything. And this one is to get more range.
Oh, okay.
So it uses Vittoria's Graphene technology, which is their thin kind of whatever the techno name is. It's a type of material. I don't really know. But
from Manchester, you ought
it's from
to know.
Manchester University, apparently.
So, now, the last tyre in the pile, we have the Maxxis Minion DHR, not a DHF, DHR. So this has got lines across the middle, which might make it good for going on the back, from what you've said before.
And this is why it's such a great, well, not why, but it's interesting that it's almost like they've alternated a front tyre and a rear tyre. That's a rear tyre, that's a front tyre, that's a rear tyre, that's a front tyre. And the side noms have come from their oldie, still do it, but they do their DHF. Mm-hmm. The side noms have been kept over because they're really predictable, cornering. They've just improved the front for braking and a little bit of rear wheel drive. And that you can use on the front and the back. And they do loads of different versions. This one's, like we said before, on the internet. That's the best all-rounder, really.
3C MaxxTerra Exo protection. So that's to do with the sidewalls and the puncture protection, isn't it? Like how kind of stiff versus supple versus likely to puncture it with a rock.
I mean, the EXO is how stiff and how strong the carcass will be. The 3C is 3 compounds that go into its construction. So these side ones, although they're softer on the top, inside them will be a harder kind of base, so it doesn't rip off or deform quite as much.
Okay.
It's not the stickiest in the world. This is MaxxTerra. They do MaxxGrip. That's their really, really super blue tacky one.
Right.
They're just a little bit slow unless you're really tipping down something steep. Tyres tubeless ready.
So we've not really talked about compounds particularly. So you get soft and sticky.
The problem is everyone's really secretive about it, aren't they? It's so hard just to get the numbers out of these
just
companies.
Won't give you the trade secrets, so you can make your own.
No.
So when is soft good?
The only bad point about soft tyres is they don't last.
Okay.
I don't think particularly draggier, but they won't last, particularly on the rear. So it's not that I would put a soft tyre on the back and be worried about it being draggy. They would just wear out so fast, and they cost. How much do tyres cost? They're bananas, aren't they? Like 80 quid, isn't it?
60, 80 quid, depending on them. Yeah. So, okay. So does the compound then bear any relationship to what sort of terrain you're riding? Like if you ride roots versus rocks versus trail centre? I
think the compound is quite important, really. I mean, as well as just the all-out grip of them, you'll find softer tyres deflect a lot less. They'll absorb a lot more bumps and lumps and things like that.
Okay.
And they don't ping back quite as fast. So as well as being just grippier tyres, they're a lot less deflecty. So it's like a win-win, really.
Right.
You could use really hard tyres if you don't ride anything loose or wet.
Okay. I'm trying to imagine what that would be.
I can't just imagine in a world like that.
A dry, really dry, hard packed trail centre, maybe.
Yeah. Well, no, because it's wet.
No.
It's in Wales. It's bad enough here.
It must be dry sometimes.
No, arguably, trail centres are the slipperiest places in the world, aren't they? They're so hard. There's no give to the ground. They've been banged. They've been ironed by thousands of riders. You know, going there with some kind of Bakelite, value-friendly tyre, you might as well just phone the dentist and go there. Just not.
Okay.
Not happening. But they are expensive, so I don't know.
So that's the kind of major weighing up point is that if you buy a softer tyre, you're going to have a nicer ride experience, but you're going to have to buy more tyres more often.
Yeah, I wouldn't be afraid of going for a soft compound at all. And be wary of getting a tyre that isn't the spec that you see. Good reviews. Magic Mary is a classic one where you see great reviews of Magic Mary because it is brilliant, but then you'll look around online for shops. Oh, there's a Magic Mary here for 30 quid. And you look at it and it's the bike park version, but as well as being heavy and chunky, is made of a really, really hard, harsh compound that's slippery and deflecty. So it's not the Magic Mary that gets 4.5 stars in reviews
it's not the
and
knobs.
things.
It's not the knob pattern that's getting the stars. It's the overall package.
The whole thing, yeah.
Okay, so
it's similar with Maxxis, although not so much. They've got a bit more of a rein on it now. It's quite hard to find, as people will already know. You cannot buy ungood Maxxis, which just means you can't buy cheap ones either. The only ones you can find are the ones you actually want, unfortunately, and they always come with 65 quid plus the price tags on.
Right, so let's imagine some problem scenarios. I keep getting punctures. What should I be looking for in the next tyre that I buy?
What kind of punctures?
Holes.
Impact.
Like holes through them, things like nails and thorns and spiky things that keep meaning that I have to plug them with tubeless noodles. Ride somewhere that isn't so littered with rubbish. When you're riding through like Manchester gutters, you probably are. Try not to. But that's it though. You could get like a mega stiff, like Schwalbe used to do the marathons things and all that, didn't they? They'll just be absolutely horrific to ride. So yeah, by all means, never have punches again. But never have a fun ride again either. So I mean, it's like never have grip. Okay.
Tubeless, you know. You just pull the thing out and pull the foreign object out and go. Pump it up a bit more, maybe.
It's really hard, this tyre buying business. Okay, I burp my tyres because I do massive hooks to flat all the time.
Yep.
What should I be looking for then? My next tyre.
I'm not being facetious. Go back to inner tubes.
Okay.
Because, you know, if you can pump them ridiculously hard and you're not getting pinch flat problems, just go back to inner tubes. It's fine. Well, a lot of downhill racers only recently went to tubeless anyway, didn't they? Because they prefer the feel of an extra butyl layer because of the damping factor of it. So if you're burping tyres, just put an inner tube in. It's not like a cop-out, it's the thing to do.
Okay. I have already bought 2 sets of tyres this year because I do so many miles that I just keep on wearing through the knobs. What do I need to do for my next set of tyres?
It is an unfortunate expense, isn't it? Tyres.
So your answer is just buy more tyres?
Yeah. Well, look at what you're spending your money on. I'm just going to go all, what's that person who said you can eat for 30p, whatever. Just like, look at what you're spending money on your bike. Why have you got carbon handlebars? Why have you got whatever that saddle costs? Factor it into your overall mountain bike life, buy a $3,000 bike instead of the $4,000 bike. Because if you have like a $3,000 bike and you have a load of tyres, you'll just be having more fun.
Okay.
So don't skimp on tyres.
Buy
the least
more
thing,
tyres,
isn't it?
buy more expensive tyres, and don't have knob strike. That's basically what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to know, talk about treads and things like that and what works, go to the bike shop. Because people who work in a bike shop are even least likely to spend money on bike parts than anyone else, even worse than we are. So they will know what's a good all-round bet of not having to replace them every 3 months, but also not killing you every weekend.
Right.
They'll go to the bike shop and see what they're using. Because they'll probably, also as well, I'm afraid, you might have to use a front tyre brand of one type and the rear tyre might be a different brand. If you can accept that, then a lot of people can't.
Really?
Yeah. There'll be loads of people who won't run a Mary and a DHR2 because one's a Troubleshooting and one's a Maxxis.
I'm going to start wearing odd socks just to annoy those people. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you for that, Benji. Are you going to hand over the last?
I mean, ultimately, there is no perfect tyre. That's why we are obsessed with them.
You are obsessed with them.
Yeah, there is no tyre for everything. There's some that get really close. In fact, there's no bikes that's suitable for everything, is there? But there's certainly, like we said on our feature the other day online, there is one that we do think, just get that, you'll be okay. But it doesn't mean it's the best. It means it's the one that's going to be the most consistent for most people.
Except the ones for whom it isn't. Okay.
Yeah.
And there you go. Totally useful buyer's not guide to just buying more tyres.
So just ask on the forum anyway, won't you? Isn't that the point?
Singletrackworld.com/forum for more advice.
Some useful.